And those social, religious, and spiritual connections are basically American domestic politics and the influence of the Jewish people in American domestic politics, which has resulted in a propaganda campaign even more one-sided, as you view it, correct me if I'm wrong, than what we witnessed in Ukraine. Of course, we don't witness anymore. Ukraine's more or less forgotten about. I don't know what Victoria Nuland is thinking, but she's not speaking out.
And I think the White House is happy that Ukraine has largely disappeared from the media conversation because it helps get them out of that hole, basically.
All right, hold the question. Hold the question that I asked you, and I'll restate it for you. Let's spend just a little bit of time on Ukraine before we get to the propaganda campaign here in the U.S. Do your sources tell you that either the White House or NATO or Western Europe or some of them have recognized the inevitable finally in Ukraine?
Yes, absolutely. And we've seen this in reporting. We've seen this in reports of the United States approaching its allies to discuss peace plans, to discuss potential negotiations. What would Ukraine have to give up to settle this thing and put this thing behind us? I think there was a faction in a very strong, deliberate, well-grounded faction in the sense of people like Tony Blinken and Victoria Nuland, who saw the war in Ukraine as an extension of their ideological pursuits, right? Their extension, that this was all part of the wars like this are going to occur when you are the indispensable nature. You're going to have to go forth and defeat monsters. You're going to have to confront tyranny. You're going to have to defend liberty. All that nonsense, all that dangerous nonsense. And I think that those narratives, those tropes, that emotional hyperbole produce these types of policies. Also, too, this is the nature of empire. When you're an empire, you are forced to make decisions, make choices to maintain and defend the empire, as well as try and expand it. And so what we see, I think, are just culminations of bad choices, bad decisions because of the consequences of previous ones. And so now you're at the point where you have run out, where there is absolutely nothing left you can do. You're literally running out of money to support this. And so I think that the reality is setting on even those who are so fervent in their beliefs.
But what do they do? What do they do or say now that A, the money is running out, because B, I don't think the House of Representatives controlled by Republicans is going to give Joe Biden another dime for Ukraine. And C, what do they say? These people live in the world of molding popular opinion. They created a disaster, a monumental, catastrophic disaster that cost the American public $113 billion. It cost the Ukrainians 500,000 young men's lives. What can they say?
Well, they can distract, right? So thankfully for them, they have this war in Gaza, which is incredibly unpopular among the American people, as we see with recent more public opinion polling that has come out. But they can distract with that, so they can choose to push one unpopular war instead of another unpopular war. They can pretend it's not happening, and I think they're very happy to see the fact that CNN, MSNBC, Fox not talking about the war in Ukraine. I get the feeling that those networks are not receiving telephone calls from American viewers asking them, where is the coverage? So I think the White House is happy to see that as well. And then the other aspect is they can always just double down. They can always just misrepresent. They can always just pretend that something else happened. So whereas this was a complete catastrophe for the Ukrainian people, the way it will be spun by the White House, by the DNC, by the president's reelection campaign, is that we stood up to Vladimir Putin. We met tyranny and we stopped it. We prevented Putin from marching further west. Poland and Germany and France are safe because of us. So they'll spin it in a way that they still come out as the heroes of our age.
How one-sided is, now we're going to get to Israel and Hamas. How one-sided is the propaganda campaign from the government or from private media, I mean, media not owned by the government, here in the U.S. and generally in the West?
Well, we have some statistical analysis that shows exactly that, how the bias is very real, and it's almost overpowering when you look at the numbers. And this comes from a journalist named Adam Johnson, who, among other things, has a Substack called The Column, and I would encourage people to go and look at that. But what the statistical analysis finds is that over the period of a month from October 7th to November 7th, on the big three cable news networks.
All right, here, hang on a second. Here's the chart that you gave us. So what are we looking at, Matt? What are the numbers going up and down on the left, and what are the numbers going left to right on the bottom?
So yeah, the vertical axis is the number of mentions in a 30-second spot by CNN, Fox, and MSNBC over a 30-day period, October 7th, or a month period, October 7th through November 7th.
And the numbers on the bottom are the dates. It starts October 8th and it goes to November 8th.
Correct. And the line, the darker line, the top line is the mentions of Israelis. And the lighter blue line, the lower line, is the mentions of Palestinians. So you can see starting October 7th, the number of times that MSNBC, CNN, and Fox mention Israelis or mention Palestinians. You can certainly see the disparity. And for, if you look at the actual numbers, it comes out to a disparity of basically 5 to 1.